I get parents that definitely come up to me afterwards, like they're selling me a fake Rolex. Like after the first day, second day in the morning, they're like, "Hey, so what are you doing in there?" Because my kid, who I told I was going to give him 20 grand to buy a car, his family must have money or whatever. All of a sudden he came home and we had talked about this. He wasn't even open to the idea. Now he wants to know if he can buy a house with that money. Like, what do you do? Then they're like, you know what? And sometimes the kids right next to them, they're like, Dad.
Yeah. 15, life and starlight. Count my lucky stars, I'm all right. Things are looking up, my desires are on sight. Gotta keep grinding, make sure that it lasts forever, not only one night.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's Noah from Cola REI, famously hot real estate group. And I'm excited for our guests we've got on. I've been getting to know a lot of you through the Facebook group, through attending some of the live events. And what's really cool, one of the things that's always fascinating to me is why we get into real estate, and understanding why other people get into real estate, right? And lots of times it's not just about the money or the paychecks or, fixing and flipping houses. Usually it has something a little bit more of a deeper meaning, like, legacy. Legacy is a common theme that I found within this group of why people want to get started investing in real estate and why they're doing this business. And I heard some really wise words the other day. And it was about legacy. And it was like, legacy isn't so much about what you leave your kids, but legacy is about who your children become. And a big part of that is what we're focusing on and what we're learning, right? This group is all about three things: learning, networking, and growing. And financial literacy is huge. Like that's what we're focusing on, right? Financial literacy. And for many of us, we're always taught, hey, go to school, get good grades, put your head down, put money in your 401k, and hopefully by the time we retire, it all works out. And what a lot of us are finding is that, maybe there's a different way. Maybe there's something else out there that, we can go down that road. But what if we also at the same time bought 2 or 3 houses or had 2 or 3 rental properties? Or what if we thought and act differently around our time and money? And gosh, now that we're learning all these new things at whatever age you're learning this stuff and getting into real estate, what if you learned this stuff when you were 13 years old? Or 15 or 16 or 17, or going into college and bought a house and lived in it while you're going to school? Or what if you started this stuff even earlier than that, right? At 6, 7, 8. So I brought in someone who is a dear friend of mine. And what he does is he teaches people, particularly kids, teenagers, financial literacy. He's a co-author of a best-selling book, The High Schooler's Guide to Money. He's spoken all over the world, different continents, Africa, Jamaica, all over the U.S., speaking to kids at high schools, at teen money boot camps. And I can't think of anyone better to help give us some tips to share with our children. And also as parents, like, how do we introduce our kids to money? What does that look like? So without further ado, I'm going to bring onto the stream my good friend and teen money guru, JP Servideo. JP, are you there?
I'm here, man. I'm here. And man, that was, I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good after that. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you a ton, man. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you.
Well, we're good friends. We've known each other for a long time. And I've been able to like sit on the sidelines and just see what you've been able to do for other people's children and the results that they're getting, and and what you're doing for so many people and so many families, and really, I look at what your work is like the ripple effect, like when you throw the rock and all the different people that you're impacting, and that to me is kind of what legacy is all about. So you just do an amazing job, man. It's great to have you on. Thank you for doing it.
I appreciate it. It is a ripple effect, and it's cool now. I've actually done it long enough where it takes a while, but I'm starting to see a ripple here, a ripple there, and it only grows. So I'm excited for what's to come as well. So that's awesome. Yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. I've got a 16-year-old. We have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. How quickly can you get these kids financially independent? Right.
Well, you can give them the tools like a parent. I'm sure you know this. You can give them the tools, and you can only do so much. The best thing I think you can do as a parent is to equip them and then be supportive of them no matter what decision they make. And what that kind of does is that kind of takes the pressure off them. Like when you're constantly talking about like, here, I want to help you get financial independent and all this stuff. There kind of creates this like pressure of like, oh man, like I have like I've seen so many kids who have parents who are constantly teaching them things when they're younger because of an industry that they're in, or maybe they're in real estate and they're trying to get their kids in real estate. So their kids kind of feel like, man, if I don't get this, what am I, stupid or whatever?
Yeah.
And what you can do as a parent to, no matter what, they're 16, 6, 4, no matter what age they are, is provide them information and then be there to support them. And, you and I, and a lot of people that we know, we've been fortunate to know, didn't learn this stuff till later. And it really, if you think about it, was only a couple of things we needed to know differently when we were younger to be in a drastically different spot right now. So, that would be the first thing I would say, is just what you can do as a parent isn't to get them financially independent, but what you can do is to educate them and then support them, whether they do good or bad, which is easier said than done. But that's the best thing as a parent you can do. And so anyone on this stream that's watching this and learning this, like I commend you for really taking the time to try to figure out how, because that's the first thing.
How young is too young, would you say? Like, is there like a sweet spot to be?
Well, and that's a really common question that I get, because especially when I'm working with teens, like I have parents come up to me after an event and they're like, so, yeah, I have one teenager, but I have, 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids that are,
right.
2, 3, 4 years old. And I guess I would say there is no too young. And that might sound weird, but like, I don't know about, but like, what would you say is the first age? Like, when was the first time you put your money in something? Like, what do you think it was? You probably don't even remember. I don't know if your parents gave you something, but like, what was it? And how old were you?
Yeah. You mean like a piggy bank type of thing?
But yeah, I mean, that's right where your mind goes, right? Like,
yeah.
Piggy bank. And how old are kids when they have a piggy bank sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, right. Like 3 or 4 years old, maybe.
Yeah. So like and here's what's interesting about it. The way I would start with the very beginning is how I would start if someone was 16 and hadn't started learning this yet. Because the thing that I'll share with you that I've learned is actually something that is not only your starting point, no matter what age they are, if they've never been kind of subjected to this type of like education or like tutelage, it would be the same, because once you do this one thing, it's kind of an anchor for all the stuff you're going to do moving forward. So what it is
what's the thing?
The thing is if you think about what most adults do wrong, right? So I kind of reverse engineered this as I started working. What most adults do wrong is they take their money, they put it in the bank, and then they spend it. And that, I mean, it as simple as that. Like, they take their money, they put it in the bank, and then they spend it. They take their money, they save it up to eventually spend it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it's black and white. I mean, that's what most people do. And so what is a piggy bank teaching a kid to do? Take money, put it in a singular place.
Yep.
And then at some point when you want something, you crack it open and you spend it. And then they get this bank account.
Yeah.
And what do? They take their money and they put it in the same place, and then they go out and they spend it. And they don't, and to them, that has become habitual. Right?
Yeah.
So the very first thing that I would do, no matter what age a kid is I would create 4 buckets. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. And I actually would do this. And now, by the way, when someone's 3 years old, they have no idea what they're doing, right? But neither do they know why they put it in one singular piggy bank. They don't know why they do that either.
True.
So there's a couple ways you can do this. One, I'll send you the link. I can also, like, I don't know if I can add it in this chat box that I see here. Like,
I'll add it to the comments. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go on Amazon. There is something that's like $15. It's called the Money Savvy Piggy Bank. And it's got 4 sections: save, spend, invest, and give back. Now, by the way, you don't have to spend $1. You could go get 4 jars at your house, and this can be an at-home activity. Right. You can, get 4 random things that you could put money in at your house. But if you want to get them like a piggy bank, it's like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks. And there comes in different colors. I have no affiliation with them. It's just something I saw, and I just think it's a good tool. So when they're 3 and 4 years old, they don't know why they do it. But when they get money, you just tell them, hey, guys, when you get your money, just remember, put 1 in each section. And it doesn't matter how much yet. Like when they get older, you can dive into like how much goes in what.
Percentage or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to ask about that, we can kind of touch on that. But the biggest thing is when they're younger, all they know, and now what they're creating a habit of is getting money and spreading it out. They don't know why, but they also don't know why they put it in one place. And then as they get older, that's your anchor, because let's say, like some families try to do little giving back things with their kids, right? Some families like to, have their kids save their money and buy something. Well, as they're getting older, now you go to, hey, like when they're 8, 9, 10 years old and they're starting to like figure out life or ask money questions, you can refer, well, hey, remember that piggy bank you have? There's actually a reason there's 4 spots. And here's when you put money in this spot, in this spending spot, it goes away. When you put money in the saving spot, it's like saving up for something bigger, and then it goes away. When you put something in the giving back spot, it actually is something that goes away, but it feels good. But this investing one, if you use this and you buy these investing things with it, it actually grows and pays for all the other ones. And now they're going to start asking you questions. And here's where you win. Like that's actually what parents don't get, is that's the win. You don't win by getting them financially independent. You win by having a 15-year-old go, hey, Dad, how do I get this investing one to grow?
Right.
And as a parent, you're no longer telling them what they need to do. You're just like, oh, since you asked.
Yeah.
Here's the information you asked for, as opposed to your dad telling you what to do.
You got to put it in the 4 buckets, right?
No, they're going, Dad, well, you say this one grows, but like, how does that work? Well, since you asked.
Yeah.
So that's how I would start, is building that. So again, you could go online and get one of those piggy banks. The kids are older. It could be shoe boxes. It could be 4 bank accounts. It's not really worth it to pay the fees, but that's how I would start.
Dude, I remember this episode of Dennis the Menace, like black and white, like Nick at Night, right? Old school Dennis the Menace, where like he had like the thing sticking up out of his head.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Wilson took him to the bank and he put his money in a savings account, and he kept going back every day to see how much it grew. And the bankers were like, look, you kid, you can't keep coming back here because there's no more money in it than there was yesterday. And he's like, what are you talking about? And ever since that episode, I always thought, you know what, savings account that's bullshit, because it Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
And I never thought of that until like just now breaking this down with you. It's kind of interesting how you see things, you create habits, like money habits as a kid even.
Yeah, because it's not about it's actually not, and this is the coolest thing I think that I find when I do these events about money, is that I teach kids about, no joke, I had a kid come up to me once. And we're talking about the way you think about money and not doing, the world tells you to do one thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, check it out yourself. Like, look it up.
Sure.
Right. And one kid came up to me at the end of a 2-day event, and he said to me, and I talked about being around people and how like your friend group affects you, but I was only talking about money. I was like, if you're around everyone and they're always going to the mall and buying things, I'm not saying you can't hang out with those people, but it's just going to be easier for you to buy things. So, and I always do have this kind of underlying tone, which they don't really see. That's like, just be careful who you hang out with, because what they do, you do. Right.
Sure.
And I had a kid come up to me at the end of an event once, and it is totally my, I doubt a lot of teenagers on here. So parents that you're listening, like, I really do, like, in my mind, have kind of planned that this will also be a result, but it's, it's their teaching about money. Kid comes up to me and he says, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, I've decided that I'm just going to start hanging around with different people, not even about money, but my friends don't make good decisions. And I know you didn't mean to teach me that.
Yeah, right.
But like, I just want to let you know that's what I took away. And I think that would be cool for you to know. And of course, I'm like, inside, I'm like, it worked.
Yeah, right.
Get it? Like you're making good decisions because that's really what it's all about.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, wow, like you're right. Like I totally didn't mean to teach you that, but I would agree that that's a good idea. So now it's totally his idea.
Right.
To hang out with the new group of people. And like, we were just talking about money.
Yeah.
But we weren't,
Yeah. Yeah. There's kids are smart, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so like, okay, so with the younger kids, creating the money habit, right? Spreading it out. What if someone has like, I have a 16-year-old son as well.
Mm-hmm.
What if someone, wants to get them in the right headspace and maybe create some money habits or introduce them to some things? What would you recommend for someone like that, a parent like that?
So first and foremost with teenagers, right? Now I'm not a parent, I'm not, but I do have nieces and nephews, and I have a nephew right now that's 13, right? I feel like now 13 years old is like what 18 years old used to be, the way these,
right.
I mean, just with all the influx of, society they get at a young age. The goal is to get them to the 4-bucket concept, right? Is to get them to that idea, right? So if you're got teenagers already, or even young adults, I mean, even someone in their young 20s, if you're a parent, you got a 23-year-old, I mean, this is where you want to get them to start.
Yeah.
And then you can roll with this. But so for example, with a teenager, the very first thing I would say is pick when you have this conversation. You got to pick when, because as a lot of parents here, I'm sure probably know, there's just times your kid's not listening to you. And yes, they're always listening, but there's times where their mind is just so not going to consume what you're telling them that it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
And the time to do this is when they need something, right? When they need something or they want something and they want to buy something, right?
Yeah.
At this moment, you now have their ear because they'll do whatever you tell them. You can get them to wash the car. You can get them to do the laundry. Oh, you want money? Do this. I'll give you money. And like a lot of times they'll do it if it's enough money or they really want the thing, right? So what I would do first is I would find out when they're starting to want, and that's young, but let's say they're 16 when you're starting to, as a parent, decide I want to teach them this. Okay, you want this thing, like, hey, just so you know, and by the way, it doesn't happen like in one conversation either. This is what's important to know. You're not going to have one conversation and they're going to start thinking differently. You start kind of planting little seeds and just little subtle, oh, you want money? Hey man, by the way, what's your oldest son's name is what? Like
Connor.
Yeah, that's right. I knew that. Connor. Hey Connor, cool man. And let's say you're going to give him the money. Let's just say it's something you'll give him, whatever. It's like, hey man, that's cool. Is it something you need or just kind of something you want? Right? It's a great first question. Is it something you need or is it something that you want? And needs and wants are two very different things. And now you're already, even those two words are starting to give them the language. I mean, think about you as an adult. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of things you want to do, but you got 3 kids. There's a lot of things you need.
Yeah.
Right? And you are able to decipher those things, and figure that out. So is it something you need or you want? Let's say it's something they want. That's fine. You're not telling them it's right or wrong. Cool. Hey, just so you know, Connor, with some of this money, if you're ever finding things that you want, but you can do without them, I can actually take this money, or we can take this money and you can actually make money off this. And later you can actually like have more and just kind of have that conversation and then move on. And then, you give them the money. And then the next time, like they're asking for things and maybe you don't have, or you're not going to give them, hey man, sorry, I just can't do it right now. Like it just doesn't make sense. Or it's just, that's kind of not really a thing. But just remember, by the way, man, if you ever get some money and you don't have to spend it right away, we can do some things with it so you'll make more money. And you're kind of like, when the opening comes up, you're just planting this seed.
Yeah.
And then one day when you say that, Connor's going to go, Dad, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, you don't give it to him right away. You say, well, look, man, I'm sure you probably just want to buy the stuff and and that's fine. And I just want you to know there's other things you could do. No, Dad, what do you mean? Well, look, I'll tell you, but like, are you really going to listen to what I say? Like, cause it might not be like the coolest thing to do right now, but it is the thing that's going to help you buy more stuff.
Right.
So now, Dad, please, Dad, like,
Yeah, it's like the car conversation where it's like, hey, look, like, you know, instead of buying you a car, like, let's go out and buy, what if we went out and bought a house first and the house paid for the car or something, you know, something like that, right?
Yeah, like, but you're saying that to them, and they're in their mind going like, yeah, that's cool, but like, it's still not a car, Dad. Like, I still got to buy that first, and then like, what kind of car can I get for that? Like,
get out of here, you ungrateful. No,
yeah, but like, but they have no concept,
right?
And the other thing, well, that might be a different question, but that there are other ways that you can get them into it, and it kind of is. It's not something they're going to love at first, but it'll get your point across, right? Like, so for example, I'll just tell you what it is. Like, so my nephew at like 11 years old, I don't know anyone on here knows the Yeezy sneakers.
Yeah.
Right? Kanye West got his own sneaker, and like, kids think they're really cool, and they're actually pretty comfy. I don't own a pair, just not for me. I've seen them, and he had them at one point. And I remember one Christmas, for Christmas, I bought him $100 of stock. Right? He was 11, bought him $100 of stock, right? And he's opening all his presents, and kids will open presents. They're like ripping open packages, just seeing if they got everything they wanted, and like so consumed by what the thing's gonna be.
Right.
And he got my gift first. I'll never forget this. He opened my gift first, and the gift was a book on stocks for dummies, just to see if he'd open it. And it had a piece of paper, and he goes, "What's this?" And I said, "You have $100 of Snapchat stock." Now, by the way, and this is important, at the time it was $5 a share.
Okay.
Right now, you can try to grade a great pick. I bought him that because, one, I did think it was a good pick, but it was also something he was interested in.
Sure.
Right? Because he's using it all the time. And I said, by the way, when you and your friends are on Snapchat, you're probably the only one that actually owns part of the company. So now he's interested. Right? But at the moment, he went like this. No joke. He opened it. What is this? Snapchat stock. Okay, cool. Threw it to the side. Right. I don't think he looked at it. He still to this day probably doesn't know where that piece of paper is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the next present was his brand new sneakers that he's been dying to have. And he opened it and he lit up. Oh my God, these are amazing. Yes, I got to take a picture and send it to my friends. He was so excited. Now, these are, this was one of his big presents. This was a few $100 sneakers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So this is another one of those anchor things. So this is another example of something you can do, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
Habits. Just like habits. Yeah.
That's all we're creating. As parents, we're not getting them to be financially independent. All our goal is to get them to make educated decisions and create a habit of thinking about something before they do it. I mean, that's literally what it is fundamentally. And what's cool is if you can do it with money, they'll apply it to other stuff. And it's like they came up with it on their own, right? And that's the best part. So now, 6 months later, I called him. Just called him because Snapchat had gone up to $25. So think about that, $5 to $25. His 100 is now 500. So I called him. I say, Anthony, I've got an exercise, or what I say. I got a little game for you. We're gonna do something real cool. You want to play a game? He's like, yeah. I was like, let's do something real cool. Remember those Yeezy sneakers you got for Christmas? He said, yeah. I said, I want you to go get them and just look at the condition. Go online and find out how much could you sell those for today. No, we're not going to sell them. Just call me back and tell me how much you think we could sell them for. And he said, okay, Uncle John, I'll call you back. Goes, right, does his thing. They were like $350 sneakers. He goes, right now I could probably sell them for $100 in the condition they're in. I hadn't been wearing them that much. They're 6 months old, but they're used and they're sneakers. About $100. I say, okay, here's the next thing. One more thing you're going to do. You're going to go, and I can teach him. If I really want to get deep on this, I can teach him percentages. I can teach a lot of things here, but I just wanted him to understand.
ROI, yeah.
Yeah, I could teach a lot of things. But I just said, now I want you to go online and look up, just go on Google and say, how much is Snapchat worth right now? He said, okay, calls me back. He said, it's worth $25, 24 and some change. We said, we found it to 25. And I said, so right now, your I forget what they were. Let's just say 350. I go, your $350 sneakers are now worth $100. I go, did you make or lose, keep or lose money? He said, I lost. I said, how much did you lose? If you bought them yourself, how much actual cash? So you had bought them for 350. You got, I mean, that's pretty easy math. He goes, $250. I said, yeah, subtraction, simple subtraction. I said, your $100 is now $500. How much did you make? And he goes, plus 400, right? And here's exactly what he said to me. And this is the thing every kid, when you do something like that, will say to almost all of you parents. They'll say, yeah, so you're telling me not to buy sneakers and to buy stock instead. And I said, absolutely not. And he goes, what do you mean? So you don't care? I go, so no, it's your money. You do what you want with it. I just want to make sure you know the difference. Do you get that there's things you can buy, which is now you have $500 because I bought that for you. And my present you didn't even want to look at, but my present is now worth 5 times what your present was worth and still growing. And the sneakers are now worth this. And by the way, do you think they're going up or down? And he goes, well, they're going to continue to go down. I go, until eventually they're worth what? I go, 0. And actually right now, if I look on my phone, I think Snapchat's at $50.
Yeah.
Which means. Did
he sell?
No, he still got no, because guess what? He's 13. He can't sell.
How much did Uncle JP buy?
I bought him what for the
for yourself.
No, you know what's funny? I did have a lot of the time. I had to sell it because I was doing something else with it. But yeah, I had bought it at the time and I made money. And he actually now has $1,000. And every time, but he said, oh, so you want me to do this instead? I said, no, I don't care what you do. I just want to make sure that you're, as a kid, you just get that there's a difference. Okay, cool. Do whatever you want. And now he's just like, well, I don't know what I want to do. So guess what? Now he has questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And now
and $1,000.
Perfect. That's awesome advice, man. That's awesome advice. What would you say are like some mistakes that parents make? Like, is there anything to avoid or try to not do?
Well, let me just kind of preface by just saying every parent is different. Every kid is different. What I'm about to share might not mean you as a parent make this mistake. But I definitely see some common things when I'm working at events, but I also know parents and their kids, you know, the claws come out when you start talking about somebody's kids. So this is just a blanketed statement, but there are some things I do see that parents do that is just making just nothing but, you know, conflict, right? The very first thing is assuming that they know their child. And this is hard because parents are like, it's my kid. Of course I know my kid. Yeah. Well, at about 8 or 9 years old, every kid starts to, and this is like brain development. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but you can look it up. Around 7, 8, 9 years old, depending on maturity and environment and all that, every kid starts to develop their own identity. So up until 7 or 8, you are, and I'm getting this applies to money, but up until 7 or 8, they're just a reflection of you and everyone you've put them around. That's really, you know, mostly who they are. You, your significant other, everyone they're around, the environment, school, like it all plays into who they are. Mm-hmm. Well, around 7, 8, 9 years old, their brain, and whether they know it or not, they're starting to go, well, who am I? Not having to do with my mom or my dad. What do I like? What do I enjoy? And it's probably very rarely something they're going to actually just come out and say, right? So the very first thing I would do, because again, what kids always believe when you're talking to them about money is they believe that you want them to learn this and you want them to do this. And they don't care what you want. They care what they want, right? It's just like telling a kid, the kid hangs out with a bunch of friends that are doing drugs and alcohol in their young teenage years, right? You're like, I don't want you hanging out with them. But they're like, but I want to hang out with them. So I'm going to do what I want. You do what you want. And that just creates this, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do, especially as they get to that age, is I would start to get to know them from because when you get to know them, and here's why it's important. When you get to know them, now you've gained you're the parent, so they should listen to me. And that's how we all feel, just not usually how it actually works. As the parent, if you get to know them, they're now going to listen to you when you have these conversations we've already talked about. right? Asking them, like when they're playing a video game that you think is stupid, and it absolutely might be, spending a day to sit with them and go, hey, you play this thing all the time. I'd love to know what's going on, and watch them light up, right? And now that's the first kind of mistake, I guess I would say. And then the other thing is again, I don't tell my nephew what to do with his money. I give him information, and this is very hard to do with your own children. I get that. And it's easier said than done. But I would rather, if he was my own kid, I would do it the same way. I would rather him mess up with his money when he's 15 living at home than when he's 40 or 30 and has a family.
Right.
Right. So what we do as parents is we tell them what to do with their money. And no, you shouldn't buy this. You should buy this. You shouldn't buy a car. You should buy this. Right. And as opposed to doing that, it's like, hey, look, here's the deal. You want to buy sneakers? That's awesome. If we took that money, like I mess with my nephew all the time. I go, hey, let's say you bought those sneakers yourself, because he's bought other things. I go, hey, if you took that money and, bought Snapchat stock, 350, gone up 10 times would be $3,500. And you'd have $3,500 as a 13-year-old right now.
Yeah.
And so you want, no, I don't care. I just want to make sure you know that. Like, so if they mess, and by the way, when they mess up, you don't scold them for it, because if you do that, guess what? They're not going to do anymore.
Right.
They're not going to talk to you about it. They're not going to ask you questions. But if they mess up, then they'll come to you. And this is the cool thing as a parent, what I know you all want more than anything, like I even want as an uncle, is when they're messing up in other areas of their life, or something goes down at school, or something happens with their friend group, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come to you because they know they're not just going to get attacked. You're going to actually empathize with them and listen because you care what they want.
Yeah.
And so that's really, I would say, the biggest thing. And the only other thing, as I mentioned earlier, it's not seizing an opportunity. Like parents,
not planting the seed. Yeah.
Yeah. Like seeing a moment and just letting it go by, thinking there'll be more.
Mm-hmm.
But with their teenagers, it really only happens where their brain is open to feedback a couple of times a year, like some more than others. Like you guys, some of you are like, no, my kid's always open, and that's awesome. Some of you are like, my kid never, but they are sometimes. So not seizing an opportunity, just assuming you know your kid and what the buttons are, really getting to know them, and educating them. And again, that's hard, because the thing is, you and I as adults who have already made these mistakes, we know what the right decision is. So we just want to tell them because we don't want them to get hurt. And we're so emotionally attached to them not getting hurt that we don't give them the chance to know that they don't care about money because they've never seen friends lose their job and lose their home. They don't care about money. That doesn't affect them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's why they don't care. Like they don't have a reason to care. There's no need to care. They wake up, they have clothes, they don't pay for any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So if you actually get to know them, educating versus dictating, and then seizing an opportunity, and also trying not to do it when they're not open, because if you do that, then it kind of takes longer for them to be open at some point. So those would be some common mistakes, I would say. And
sometimes, like all things, like with coaching, like I'm a big believer in coaches and having coaches in all things, whether it's sports or school or speech or teachers, in general. Like if I had the responsibility right now of sitting down with my kids and saying, okay, we're going to do school right now, they'd be like, what? Get out of here. Like, and putting them in the environment where someone else is coming from someone else is so powerful. Mm-hmm. And I've seen you, I've peeked my head into your classes on like a Friday morning when there's a bunch of kids there who, and their parents are next door learning about real estate investing and things like that. And they kind of drop their kids off and at like a teen boot camp type of thing. And they're just like, their heads down, they're sleeping. They're like, oh my God, they're texting. Right. And then Sunday, peeking my head in just to say, hey, what's up? How's things going? And they're like little money making machines. Like they're like looking at balance sheets. They're like, going out and doing community service. They're like, this is awesome. And it's like a complete transition. Yeah. They're talking about starting businesses and like they're going home and they're like, hey dad, how many offers did you make this weekend? And you're like, get off my back. Like, it's like they're just motivated. It's just, there's just such a shift in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, it's remarkable to see that. And I think that's a big part of it is having like coaching coming from someone else sometimes as a parent, you know?
Oh no, absolutely. And by the way, it's definitely, you know, and I get parents that definitely come up to me afterwards, like they're selling me a fake Rolex. Like after the first day, second day in the morning, they're like, hey, so what are you doing in there? Because my kid, who I told I was going to give him 20 grand to buy a car, you know, his family must have money or whatever. All of a sudden he came home and we had talked about this, but he wasn't even open to the idea. Now he wants to know if he can buy a house with that money. Like, what do you do? Then they're like, you know what? And sometimes the kid's right next to him and they're like, Dad, like, shit. And he's like, what? He's like, go away. He's like, I got to shake this guy's hand. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, absolutely. And that's a lot of parents say that to me. Like, well, it's easier coming from somebody else.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a perfect example. Like I had a girl at an event, came in, and when I walked in the room, her mother had to drop her off super early. And she was sitting on the wall in the back of the room. Like right when I walked in the room, she was like to the right on the ground. And even the girl who kind of at the time was helping me run my event was like, hey, we got one girl in there. She didn't even say hello. She's kind of nasty. Right. So most people would be like, hey, you know, like kind of like meet her with that same energy. So I just walked in and I was like, hey, how are you? She didn't say anything. I was like, all right, well, my name's JP. Like, what's your name? She kind of like mumbled it. I didn't even hear it. I didn't care, but I also wasn't going to be like, tell me your name. Like, what is your name? Like, I didn't care. I was like, hey, all right, well, hey, just so you know, if I can get you anything, if you want anything to drink, like I'm more than happy to help you. But like, I'm going to get started. We're going to set some stuff up. You come and sit down whenever you feel like you're ready. Like, no problem at all. And the beginning to my entire event, I'll give you guys the key. I walk on a flip chart. You may even see me have done this, or you probably came in when this was up because I usually post it on the back of the room when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I just write, what do you want? And I make sure that they know, I know you probably are, because again, they're teenagers. They know everything. There's nothing you can teach them. Like they literally look at you. Like my nephew looks at me. He's like, I know what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Right. Like you're 13. Like you know what you're doing. Right. Because like the way I always get by is somebody once asked me, what would you do if you had a kid genius in there? Like, would you feel intimidated? I was like, I don't care. I don't care if a 15-year-old is literally the smartest 15-year-old in history. He's not smarter than me until he's had another 15 years of life.
Yeah.
I win. Like experience, I win with 15 more years. You can have all the book smarts in the world. I win. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So I let her do, and I write, what do you want? And I let them know. I say, hey, it's not about me. I'm here to help you get what you want. I go, if you want to play video games for the rest of your life, I'm going to help you do that. And now they're like, what do you mean? Like, why would you do that? My parents tell me not to play video games, but I make sure that they understand, like, yeah, do you have money to live in a place without having to leave so you can play video games? I want to get you the best TV. This is how much that's going to cost. Here's the best thing. Here's how much that costs for you to do what you want to do whenever everybody leave you alone. And when that's the motive, when I'm only talking to them about what they want to talk about that. They're in.
Hey, so, how much money do you need for everybody to leave you alone and get you like the dopest big screen,
sickest chair, mini fridge so you don't have to move.
Yeah, just a mini fridge right there. Everything, microwave on it.
Live, by the way, and the right internet so the internet doesn't cut out, and the right cell phone service. Like, how much do you need to do that? Because, by the way, guess what? That's what this weekend's about. And they're like, I like this guy.
Love it.
But then we talk about what it takes, and they're like, oh crap, I gotta get to work, or I gotta start a business, or I need to invest my money because that's how I get what I want. And I'm like, okay, if you choose to invest, like that's what kids tell me. They're like, so how much? So should I start investing my money? I'm like, I don't care. It's like, wait, isn't this an event about teaching me to invest my money? I'm like, I mean, it's about how you can, but I don't care if you do. And I go, it's your money. Like, you go, you ain't gonna listen to me anyway.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's fair. I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Right.
So like, it's easier coming from somebody else, but I have found that approach parents have used, and no joke, they've come up to me or messaged me on social media later and been like, you're not going to believe what just happened. I did what you told me to do, and literally my kids are acting different than I think probably the coolest thing is when parents respond to me and they go, me and my kids have a better relationship because of it. because we understand each other and we're empathizing with each other because I'm empathizing with you.
You know what's crazy is so many people talk about legacy. Like we opened up with that theme of like what does legacy look like, and you know, is there more to it than just leaving your kids with a bunch of real estate or money, you know? And I don't. What's cool is like with what you're doing is that why can't our kids and us be entrepreneurs and start our own businesses and do our own thing, whatever that might look like for each other? Like I don't feel like there's so many people that I buy houses from who they work so hard, like these older landlords, and they've got 70, 80 properties, and you know, they bust their butts and then they pass away, and their kids, you know, don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you know, and not to say there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like, it's like that person worked their whole life, but didn't really get them involved or get them in, or maybe just didn't have the tools to educate them on what they were trying to do. And, you know, it's just crazy. But I want to show a picture here and have you tell us a little bit about it. What's going on here?
Oh, that's a cool picture. Oh man, I haven't seen that picture in a bit. So that was the first time, I've gone down a couple times now, where we did a financial education and personal development. Well, one, we were in a camp in Jamaica. We were actually in Kingston going through, like, we weren't on like the beach. We were like in the city and like in Kingston, Jamaica.
Yeah.
And we did a camp for a weekend. And then we did an assembly tour. So that was one of the assembly tours. That okay. one of the stops, we did about 6 different schools. We were down there like 10 days, did a multi-day camp, then did like 2 schools a day for multiple days. So that was actually one of the assemblies. And that was my team on the right. You'll see Joseph Powell. You know, he actually sponsored with a few other sponsors. Fortune Builder sponsored it. For those of you who know them and are in real estate, the MapX Foundation. He lives in Orlando, but he's from Jamaica. They sponsored it. He literally took care of everything for us being down there. Like, he's an amazing. And then in the middle is a girl named Manny, who is an event planner, who is just an amazing human, event planner, amazing human. She came with me and was someone that actually was with me from the very beginning of starting to build these camps out.
Yeah.
Her and I actually had the conversation years before this picture. And she's never usually in front of the camera. She'll probably kill you for posting this. But she's used to being behind the scenes. But years before this picture, we talked about running these things internationally. And like literally at my first event, or before we even did the first event, I was like, one day we're going to do these all over the world. And she's like,
financial literacy in Jamaica. How many like Jamaican like teenagers do you feel like you impacted that weekend? How many ripples were in the water?
That was one assembly, like an hour assembly, but the amount of kids over the multiple times we've been to Jamaica, thousands. Yeah. And in an effort to not be as long-winded as I usually am, one example was at a camp. There was a girl, and she always wore these like head scarf type things, and you could tell she like cared about how she looked, right? And part of the reason we go to Jamaica, part of the reason Joseph and his foundation work in Jamaica, not only is he from there, but a lot of kids down there just don't think it's possible to get out of the ghetto. They don't think, and like, you know, we talk about the ghettos here, but like, it's kind of, there are some here that are that bad too, but like down there, it's bad, you know, where these kids are. And one girl came up to me at the end of an event, and she said, you know, before I came to this event, I thought and she was like 14. She said, all of my aunts and uncles and my family are asking me when I'm going to get pregnant. She's like 14, 15 years old. Yeah. And she said, they're all asking me when am I going to get pregnant? Because all my aunts got pregnant when they were young. All my uncles had, you know, kids when they were young and they're teenagers, and they stay living in the ghetto and just, you know, do what they can do for money. And like, that's how they all live. And she said, before I got to this event, I knew that was my life. I was eventually going to get pregnant. I'm going to live in the ghetto and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, like, what do you want to do? Like, what would you do if you could do anything? And this was after the event. So she'd been working with me all weekend. And she goes, I want to move to New York and I want to be in fashion. And you could tell she liked to wear certain things. Like both days she had this like matched or something, and like really like, you know, cared about her, you know, her fashion every time she came to the class. And I said, you know, you can do that, right? She goes, now I do. I go, you know, it literally only takes a passport and a flight and some savings to do that. And she goes, I never thought I never even dreamed anything other than what I already told you. And now I know that I can do that. And that's actually what I'm going to do. And, you know, it pulls on the heartstrings a little bit, but that to me is the coolest thing, because again, the ripple effect, like you talked about, the ripple effect of that girl coming out of the ghetto in Jamaica and going on to be in fashion. What do you think she does for the neighborhood in Jamaica when she gets older? Like, what do you think she can do, is if nothing more than just an example of someone who can make it out, right? Like the ripple effect we're not going to see for years, and it's not really about that. Like it kind of is, but it's not. It's just about helping one person and not underestimating the value of helping one person, helping your son, your daughter, just one of them to make better decisions. But so this was one of the coolest things. Now, since then, we've done multiple in Jamaica, gone to Africa. It was crazy.
That's awesome, man. So I know we're going a little long here, but I'm loving this, and you're just providing so many good tips for people. And I just want to say thank you, man. This has been really, really awesome. Like, so like if someone wanted to like have you come to their church or school, or you know, one-on-one with their family or something like that, would that be something that you could work out, you'd be interested in? Or like
yeah, I mean, obviously right now with everything going on, like event permitting, you know, we'll get events going whenever we're allowed to, and to keep everything within the rules. But yes, I do one-on-one and stuff like that. What I would say is just reach out to me on social media, you know, just at JP Servideo for everything. Yeah, perfect. There you go. At JP Servideo for everything. Actually, at the moment, I would have you go to the website, but it's actually getting revamped right now. But you can find me on social media. You know, they can reach out to you. You know, obviously, you can let them know if
what is your website? Because this will be up for a long time. Like
jpservideo.com.
Cool.
You know, everything. Yeah, just www.jpservideo.com. And actually, I do have one thing for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to, like, again, how you want me to send it to you, but for those of you who have kids that are at least 13 to 17 years old, I have a friend that owns a company called Step. Step is now like Alex Rodriguez and Nas and all the Will Smith and all these guys have already invested in this company. It's doesn't cost anything. It's a debit card. It works like a debit card, but it acts like a credit card, and you'll build credit. So you can actually sign up for this card. I don't get paid for this. It's literally just a really good tool, and you'll get $3 if you want to do it. But if you have a 13-year-old kid, as opposed to giving them money, you can actually give them this debit card. It's just an app, and you can see everything they spend it on or whatever, and they're building credit.
Sweet.
So he gave me.
And you have to be 13.
All you have to do is be 13. So like Noah, let's say you're 16-year-old. If you download it, and let's say Dad, I need money, but he's out. You just go on your app, like almost like Venmo, but it's a bank. It's actually an FDIC insured bank.
Yeah.
And you just transfer it to him from your app, from your thing. And he now has it on his own little debit card. And now he's getting used to using his debit card, but it actually works like a secured credit card.
Okay.
And he's building credit.
Sweet. Yeah, so we'll put it in the comments. Like we'll type it up. We'll get everybody squared away with how to get that.
Yeah, I had it for something else, and I checked. It's still active, so you guys can use it too. And everyone gets $3. And like I said, I don't get paid. And you look it up yourself, but there's no risk. There's literally no risk to it. So,
anyways, man, we're so happy that you came on. I know that like in the threads, we're gonna list all the resources and links to your book, High Schooler's Guide to Money, that you wrote with Than, and you know, the link to the debit card and your website and all that stuff. But thank you so much, man. And you know, you might not be able to hold the camp right now because of COVID, but if you want to come down to Columbia, South Carolina, you know, I got enough kids here where we can make something happen.
I'd love to. We
train these kids.
I would
Come
love
get
to,
'em.
man. No matter how many there are, man, we could have fun. But yeah, we could definitely do something. I'm excited. Hey, let people comment on the thing, and I'll answer as many things as I can too if people got any questions. So.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, John. Thanks so much, man.
All right, buddy. I'll see you later.
All right. Take care.
On the front grill, raised a couple mil so I can make a deal. Now I'm feeling too trill, like it isn't real. Whether you in it for the love or the thrill, live life.
Right here, looking good.
This is a good one.
What's going on right here? You're like, that you got it going on right now, right?
That's one of those things where like, it's like, what do I do with my hands? But I'm feeling myself, and like,
And then right there, right? You're about to get in go down the.
I'm ready to. You can tell I'm ready to dance in that pic.
You're right. Yeah, there you go.
Just feeling it, like just feeling the music. You guys put on a great event.
Right there, right?
That old Zach Hernandez. Like me and Zach Hernandez. I don't even know where that move started to get.
They just keep coming.
Yeah, a lot of arms in these pictures. I don't know what's with all the arms.
Right here, right? You got Christy's here. I got one. I think you're reeling her in or something. Right there. There you go.
Oh no, I think I'm throwing dice in that picture.
Oh, that is the dice. That is the dice.
On the front grill, raised a couple mil so I can make a deal. Now I'm feeling too trill, like it isn't real. Whether you in it for the love or the thrill, live life.